Welcome back. Republicans weighing another run at repealing and replacing Obamacare, but tax reform is beginning to take center stage in our nation's capital. Despite the shift, Speaker of the House Paul Ryan warned yesterday any deal on taxes could take longer than many expect.
We were actually closer in agreement on health care than we were on tax reform. The House has a plan, but the Senate doesn't quite have one yet. They're working on one. The White House hasn't nailed it down. So even the three entities aren't on the same page yet on tax reform.
Joining us right now is EY America's Deputy Managing Partner, Michael Inserra. Michael, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very in touch with what business leaders are feeling right now. Do you expect a deal to get done on tax reform, and when might that be?
Well, there's a lot on the administration's plate. We think tax reform, along with now seeing infrastructure coming back up into the prioritization and obviously health care vacillating back and forth, we think there's real opportunities to get a deal done in tax reform. And tax reform was going to be critical for job creation. Tax reform, infrastructure, and defense are all huge impetus for job creation and GDP growth.
And for, yeah, I was going to say, and for economic growth. But, you know, Bob, I was skeptical that we would see a real impact in terms of economic growth in 2017. Now it feels like, yeah, we better not even expect it. It's going to be impactful 18, not 2017. Is that going to be a problem for the markets and for the economy?
Way too slow. Way too slow. What's disheartening is when I hear Congress, the Senate representatives say, I've been here for 2 decades, and Trump has to learn that things don't move that fast. And the problem is they're in an analog world, and we're moving to digital. And so they got to get caught up, Michael, don't you think? I mean, you're with the C-suite every week. And when you think about taxes, not only corporate tax, but we got to think about the small business person who files on a personal basis.
Thank you.
We must give them the same advantage that we're talking about corporate tax. Your opinion, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think when you talk about tax reform, we quickly go to corporate, and we do need to make changes in the corporate structure. But I think sometimes we lose sight that many of the entrepreneurs work through flow-through. And so when flow-through entities exist, it's your personal tax rates that are important here. Yes. And so any kind of deal has to really, I believe, include both corporate and the personal side, because they are very interminagled.
Exactly.
This is a linchpin of what's going on in the White House and in Congress right now. We talk about debating over how to raise revenue and the border adjustment tax, but the central sticking point will be, do you cut the top tax rate for wealthier Americans? But that also applies to small business.
That's absolutely right.
And so that's why conservatives, that's why kind of hardcore Republicans want to see that happen. They want that top rate to go down to 33%, and that's actually something that President Trump and Paul Ryan agree on. They want that top rate cut big time. And
I feel like that's what the Obama administration did not understand.
No.
They wanted to raise taxes on the rich, with no thought about the, the heavy tail, of the impact on small business, because that's actually the job creators in the country.
Exactly right.
And Michael, to Maria's point, waiting till 18, we're going to see a pullback in the market, equities. I mean, what are you hearing from those CEOs about timing and the speed of implementation?
Well, it's interesting. I think about timing and speed, and I think it's just relevant for all business around transformation change. If you look at what technology is doing, in general, it's speeding up agility. It affects global trade. It affects industrialization. And so I think we have to continue to be agile as a country, as corporations, et cetera. And that change and the impacts on change is critical. And I think technology has become the real super sector here that is facilitating the need for affecting change on a much more agile basis.
Is that where the jobs are? Let me ask you about the Friday jobs report, because it feels like things are getting better. Confirm this or deny this. I mean, the estimates are 180,000 jobs for the month of March. The unemployment rate is expected to remain at 4.7%. What are you seeing in terms of jobs right now, and where is the growth in jobs?
Well, I think that's a really fascinating question, because you think about digitization, automation, you hear a lot about offshoring. There's absolutely truth to that. But what I think the silver lining in this is 235,000 jobs in February. We think it'll be a continued upward trend.
We had a good ADP number this week.
Yes.
Yep, exactly. So what I think the silver lining in this is the fact that technology is creating new jobs. And while certain jobs are going to disappear, and they are disappearing, I think data, analytics, robotics, automation is going to continue to permeate. I actually think that plays to the strengths of millennials who have strong technological backgrounds and are very engaged from an analytical and thought process. I think there's going to be job creation as the world pivots.
That requires training.
It requires retraining and training, and I think that's workers across the entire, schematic.
Really?
Randall Stevenson is one of the leaders out there today where he's committed to retrain over 100,000 of his employees.
At AT&T.
At AT&T. He's doing an amazing job of taking ownership to create the right kind of talent, not relying on the H-1 piece.
That's what we're advising clients today, and that's what we're doing with our own people today, is continuing to shift their skill sets.
Really important insights, Michael. Thanks very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
Michael Inserra, EY, this morning.